Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Banks, your Tennessee River podcast community. Today, I have Doug Kibbe with me from Clifton. He's the city manager. So, once again, welcome. We've geared up a lot of topics to talk about today, and I just want everybody to know that it is going to be an extended podcast. In the editing, we'll try to break it up as much as possible. Add a little bit of multimedia here and there just to kind of break it up so it's not just my beautiful mustache and Doug's beautiful goatee. So, Doug, thank you again for being here, and let's start. What would you like to talk about?
Well, there's a lot of things going on, as you know, but the first thing I want to go, I don't know a whole lot of people in town. I do, but it's just the few that I see and run into. There's some misconceptions about my background and whether I qualified to be a city manager, which has been brought up through litigation. It's interesting what people will say when they don't know anything about you. So I want to provide a little bit of my background, what my priorities are in life. First of all, it's my faith. God is at the top. My family is second. My country is third. I spent 34 years out defending it, and then my job here at Clifton. As the city manager, so I just want to make sure. But you know what? Make sure I don't look the wrong direction. It hasn't always been that priority. Okay, so I guess as you get older in life, you get wiser and you realize the things that are important. But the other thing is, everybody knows I'm in the Navy. That's the big thing they know. I used to be in the Navy. Well, I did. My first 14 years on active duty, I was a 10 designated, which is a helicopter pilot, and I transitioned at that point to the reserves, and at the point when I transitioned, I became the human resources officer, and I did that for 16 years, and I have been at the highest levels on the administrative side, which is OPNAV N1 up to Pentagon, working for Vice Admiral Ferguson, doing all the policies and procedures, make sure we're getting them right, and then at Fleet Forces N1, on the operational side, working manpower and personnel. I've seen all spectrums from the hiring process and classifying positions and making sure people were qualified for whatever job they were applying for. And the other side of it, throughout the spectrum, is the firing side, which is not the good side. I've been a senior member of several boards where we determine whether somebody's going to be in the Navy or not, and what their punishments are going out. So the worst case one I've ever had was we had a mid-level officer that we busted down to NE1, which is the lowest rank you can get in the military, and sentenced them to 20 years at Leavenworth. And that's not side. So I have a very extensive background in that. Just wanted to get that out, and that's on the Navy side. Even in the reserves, I was in the basement at the Pentagon, at the National Military Command Center, doing world operations, common operating picture for every asset across the Navy. And we're not talking about the basement like you'd have in your house. It goes way down so that something happened to the top of the building, nothing would happen to us. And then my last tour was with NATO, so I've been all around the world, which is pretty awesome. Working with the NATO countries and doing that stuff. So age 26, I was deployed on a Navy warship. We had, working for me, I was the officer in charge. I had 5 officers and 30 enlisted personnel, and I had 2 multi-million-dollar helicopters flying in the Gulf of America, right? So you don't think about it back then and how much responsibility you're given until you go somewhere else, and it doesn't seem like you want to have a 26-year-old in charge of all of that. But that was pretty cool. But anyway, that's pretty, that was fun. And then after I did that, I was an inspector general for 3 years. An IG, I used to go out and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Not good. But anyway, after that, I became the executive director of the Center for Personal and Professional Development. And I had 500 people working for me. They were active duty, reserve, contractors, and government civilians. And they were worldwide. When I say worldwide, we own all the Navy college offices. We had a $250 million budget, and it's amazing that I transitioned from there to here to 20 people and a $3 million budget, and suddenly I'm not qualified, which doesn't make any sense, but hey, yeah, it is what it is.
Are they saying that there's a particular qualification that you lack?
No, I think it's just, even though I grew up in Tennessee, I actually was born in New York. I was born on the Air Force Base. My dad was a B-52 pilot. But we moved here when I was like 1.5, 2 years old, so I don't remember anything other than Portland, Tennessee, and running around and playing in the water and catching crawfish and all the other stuff that kids like to do. So
I know a lot of people probably don't know this about me, but I'm also a military brat as well. My dad, Marine Corps, 20 years. He made it all the way to Chief Warrant Officer 3. We lived in a lot of different places. We lived in Okinawa, Hawaii,
nice.
in Korea. So we've been all over the Pacific. It was great, and he was stationed in Camp Pendleton and El Toro. So we did 2 separate tours in California. But yeah, it's a great place to grow up in a military base, and being in the military really gives you a wide perspective. You're never doing the same MOS unless you absolutely stick with it. So I love what you're saying about the military. There's a special place in my heart for it. Probably not a lot of people know. My dad spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, and we traveled quite a bit over the Pacific Theater. And I lived in foreign countries for the first 10 to 11 years of my life. And it's great. One, it gives you a broader perspective. 2, you're dealing with the complications of being in a foreign country, not understanding the rules and customs and the language, getting to know them, developing respect for other people. In the military, it's really a tight microcosm of our society, whereas you might not deal with certain ethnic groups, whereas you're from a small town in Missouri. But in the military, you don't really have a choice of who you're going to be interacting with. So you have to develop a respect and an understanding. Plus, with the jobs that you do, there's such a detail, because it is the difference between, saving somebody's life, losing somebody's life, or it's like the Afghan withdrawal. It's a disaster, or, it's a success like Desert Storm 1. So I understand the complexities one has in the military.
It's interesting
All right, but it still goes without saying, back to my original question, and how are people questioning your qualifications?
It doesn't matter. I mean, people will throw dispersions, and I'm fine. I got a tough skin.
And let me ask you this: is it your fault if you don't have the qualifications because you didn't hire yourself?
Right.
Somebody hired you.
Somebody hired me, and
let's talk about when you first got hired.
Well, when I first got hired, I was making $153,000 when I retired, and then when I got here, because the city needed help, I think I had a skill set that would help with them, and they offered $46.50. I'll say, I'll take the 46. And then Miss Barbara said, well, you got free health care. And I said, well, no, it's not free. Somebody's paying for it. How much is it? And because I already had my federal retiree, my TRICARE, my VA, I had primary, secondary, and tertiary. I really didn't need anymore, so they ended up giving me additional $6,000. So it really actually came back up to being 52 for the medical side of it. So that worked out. Just to let you know where the city was, and this is from our 2016 audit. We were $8.5 million in debt. I think there's about $1.8 million in the bank. About $1.2 million of that was in a CD in the water sewer fund. And I was told in the general fund, just the general fund alone, that I could spend no money except money for salaries. And that was it. That's really how broke the city was. I mean, we weren't bankrupt, but we were pretty close. And there was no pay scale at the time. I had a police officer making, 2 police officers making $14 an hour. One had been here 1 year, and and one had been here 15 years, making the same pay. Yeah. And so one of the first things I did was put a pay scale together. We got the employee handbook was about yay thick with a lot of cut and paste and stuff that was contradicting, not in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I got all that fixed, and I think that was in a regular meeting on December 20th, 2016. Got them both approved, and this is our first pay scale, right? And the city manager's on the pay scale, and that's important to know, because we'll talk a little bit about that later, but one of the first questions they asked, they said the entire budget's approved with the exception of a 5% pay raise. He said, do you agree with a 5% pay raise? And I didn't hesitate. I said, no. I said, I don't know. I just got here, but things aren't looking very good about pay raises. But I have a unique skill set, one being an IG and two having a master's degree in Lean Six Sigma, which is basically Jack Welch's Six Sigma Black Belt program from Loyola University in New Orleans. It took 3 years. I got my master's degree, and one of the things they taught us was any system that's sort of gone to waste, that's been abused, that has been neglected, you can usually find about 10% savings. And I had a $3 million budget. It's about $300,000. So I asked the commissioner, I said, if I find it before the next budget, because they didn't want to be the gift that keeps on giving on top of the pay. I said, if I find it, will you give it to them? They said, absolutely. So our first budget meeting was in April of 2017. I came in, they asked what the pay raise was, and I said, well, first of all, there's not a pay raise. It's a COLA, cost of living adjustment. The last time they've had any pay at all that's gone up, the inflation has gone up 7%. So there's a 7% COLA in there. And they said, no. We only agreed to 5. I said, well, it's going to cost $40,000 for a 7% COLA. And I've already shown you, and I've got, and this is important because I keep all my records. I want to throw some of this stuff down here. This was our operating expense reduction effort for FY 17 through 25 because we're still doing it. And that's what process improvement is all about. 31 items in of all kinds of wasteful spending. We were at $59,115.83. Things we don't spend money on anymore. So roughly $60,000. I said, look, I've already saved you $60,000. This is $40,000. You still got $20,000 to play with. Like, oh, cool, yeah. We'll prove that. And then I asked him a question. And at the time it was Randy Burns, Miss Eva, Carol Hickerson, and Leighton Packwood. We had another person, but that person didn't go to any of the meetings, so they ended up quitting. I said, if I can find future savings, will you give them cost of living adjustments every year? And they said, absolutely. So I took that as a challenge, and the department heads that thought I was mean when I said no suddenly go, oh crap, we know if we can find some more money, we'll get some more pay. I said, let's do it. So, and I got my numbers, I want to make sure they're right. To date, we have found $773,000 in savings.
Very nice.
Yep, and of that, and that's important because of that we have reinvested $521,000. If I could just play this quick thing because this really ties in. This is our new Secretary of Defense. It's about 45 seconds.
Yeah,
it really has some.
Put it right up to your microphone.
And even has some good stuff for the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That includes a Pentagon audit, which to the Marines out there, y'all got it figured out. And we appreciate that. Lean and mean. We are going to focus heavily to ensure that at a bare minimum, by the end of 4 years, the Pentagon passes a clean audit. The American taxpayers deserve that. They deserve to know where their $850 billion go, how it's spent, and make sure it's spent wisely. It used to be that if you call for an audit, somehow you were undermining the department. I believe the exact opposite. I believe we are accountable for every dollar we spend and every dollar of waste we find or redundancy, is a dollar we can invest somewhere else, as President Trump has committed.
Great words, because that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. Sitting there being on an audit to find this money so that we continue to give cost of living adjustments to our folks.
So over the last 8.5 years, where have these savings, where have these cuts come from?
Everywhere, absolutely everywhere. We've reduced personnel in certain areas, we've increased personnel in certain areas. Just little things, drug testing services, poster meter system, excluded services wage report, TML pool insurance, unemployment costs, paid U.S. Here's one. We had a USDA rural development loan. Principal remaining was $589,000, so about $600,000. We had remember I talked about that $1.2 million CD in the bank?
Yeah. This
loan was 3.75%. The CD was paying 0.75%. So you have a $600,000 tracks moving. One a loan, one a CD. Ooh, look, we're getting 0.75. Ooh, look, we're paying 3.75. You lose 3% of your money for the next, I think it was, years was it set? Next 30 years. So by paying that off with the CD, it saves the city $10,608 a year over the 30 years. Our city credit card, our LED lighting, we're paying tax on gas. We're a government organization. That saved us $5,000, $6,000 a year. And what's really cool about it is the sooner you find it, the better your savings are in the future. That $60,000 for 8 years is $480,000, almost $500,000. But that's not even adjusted for inflation. It really comes out to about $547,000. But the sooner you find it, the sooner you saved it, the more money you save. So we've been tracking, I did some cost analysis just to make sure I'm not telling, over those 8 years we have saved $3,687,653. In the reinvestment side, we have reinvested $2,380,759. So about a $1.3 million difference. Now, some people go, well, where's that $1.3 million at? It's everywhere. We've got $21.5 million worth of grants with a $1.8 million match. It's like 9 cents on the dollar. Our net position is doubled. We've been able to get cost of living adjustments and even one raise in FY 22. That's why I want to get into the budget a little bit later. But we have, and here's the deal: all of our budgets since that first one in April 2017, 5-0 approval across the board. Every year we've been given these COLAs, and the COLAs, we'll get to that in a minute, but how inflation has gone through the roof these last 4 years. So it's very important because everybody's hurting. But the thing is, my team, my employees help me find these things, wasteful spending, things we don't do. I'd have people come into my office and say, hey, we need to do this and this and this. And I said, well, how much is that going to cost? It's going to cost this and this. And I said, now if that were your money, how would you pay? Well, I wouldn't do that. I'd go down to Joe over at so-and-so, and he's got this, and we can do this, and whatever, and it's going to cost me about half. And I said, well, then why should the taxpayer pay that if you wouldn't pay that? So if we're going to spend money, we're going to spend it like it's coming out of our own back pocket. And that's the way it has to be. You can't spend it like it's somebody else's money. You have to spend it like it's your money. Then you will go, do I really want that, or do I really need that? So that's sort of been our motto, and it's the results have been great, and we still got more to go. Even when we get up to building a new water plant, it's going to be another $155,000 in savings in personnel and salaries, insurance, supplies, utilities. It all adds up. So it's just, we're not stopped yet. We haven't reached the goal, but we have paid for all of our employee cost of living adjustments and even one raise.
So the main sources of income for the city: property taxes,
1% local option sales tax, beer tax, any other taxes, fines, and this is all in the general fund.
So basically, the Clifton Marina funds the city.
Well, you're a big
I
part
just
of it.
said.
No, the marina, the golf course, the burial, any of the businesses where people come and spend money, it's been a noticeable difference. And when I did some research back when the golf course was closed, they were bringing in about $14,000 in local option sales tax, and that was back in 2014 before when it closed down, or 13, whatever it closed down. But
Has there been a significant
Yes.
impact because of the marina being here?
well, I don't have it. I just have the last 3 years. But when it comes to our there's property tax, we can get down to my local sales tax. In FY23 actual, it was $155,000. And our estimated for FY24 was $211,000. Our proposed for FY25 is $297,000. You guys are knocking it out of the park.
Man, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know if you can come up with that right now.
Well,
I get it. There's times when the winter time.
Yeah.
There's same for the golf course. This is just an average. This is the average for all 12 months.
I think in going with the common theme of this, of misconceptions and people just saying things before they really think about them, I do see, it's not a lot of noise like it used to be, but I do see a lot of noise where some people will get on there and say, well, we're not going to support any businesses in Clifton because people in Clifton don't support their businesses. And I think that's absolutely silly, because now what you're doing is you're taking your tax revenue that could be used in improvements, and you're driving to Savannah, or you're driving to Waynesboro, and you're saying, here, take my money. So now Waynesboro is getting your tax money.
Yes.
Because you don't want to support businesses in Clifton. That doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, I know a lot of people in the city come out and support the marina, and I want to say thank you for that. You know, like, this is, like, it's symbiotic. Without the marina, you know, the tax revenues are going to falter. Something else will come in here and replace it. Might be better, might not be as good, but it's symbiotic. The more that we can support businesses in this town that actually have business licenses and tax, you know, in this town, instead of people that are coming from other places, it's only going to help the community grow
You talk
stronger.
about food trucks.
I didn't say that. I don't know who said that. I was just saying businesses driving here at Park City property, but that's another story. That's another podcast.
The city is growing. When I got here, there might be 1 or 2 cars on Main Street, and I'm not lying. And the only people in the back that parked back behind the city hall were city employees, and that was it. And now it's gotten to the point where we've got to put in some.
So Doug, you mentioned that your budget has passed audits, is that correct?
Every single one. The only finding, and as a matter of fact, we're having a audit debrief at the February board meeting. Mr. John Poole does our audit. He's done it since I've been here. And every single budget that I have put together, along with my team at City Hall, has passed with flying colors.
So for the people in the back of the podcast that might not be listening, who performs these audits?
We have to contract through the state for an auditor. That auditor on July 1st will start asking our banks for all of our records. So it's not necessarily us providing information. He goes and looks at the banks and sees the money coming in, the money going out. Everything is accounted for.
An independent auditor with no connection to you or anybody else in the city.
Nope, he lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And we have to contract through him online, through the state, through CARS. It's a website, and we have to do that every year. We pay him $6,000 to do the city and $1,000 to do the airport.
And I just wanted to drive home the point about transparency and open information. You know, there's nobody trying to hide the budget. It's there. You can make a request at any time. You can see it.
Anytime.
The commissioners have exactly the same access to it. They get to see it and vote on it every year. So
every time they pass the budget, they're passing everything that's been used to roll up into this number, which is used to roll up in this number. And it's rarely been looked at. The first year, they had a very good look. Second year, they had a good look. Third year, they kind of sounds good. But the thing is, we've been doing so well, the fourth, fifth, sixth, and even the seventh time is kind of like, you know. And I tell them at the beginning, I said, look, we can go line item by line item. It'll take a while, but that's fine. Or you can look at some of the areas I've highlighted that show some significant changes, drops, increases, and we'll discuss why that occurred. Because it doesn't matter how good we put this budget together. July 1st, it changes. Because it's just, you try to do your best to make it right, but, you know, a grant will come in, a truck will break down, just like we just had the truck out at the ball field, blew an engine. So we gave them the city vehicle, the admin vehicle, which is also a truck. 4-wheel drive, they can go out, it's theirs now. Now we'll have to put another truck in the budget next year. And we don't do Ford Explorers anymore because it just had no utility. Right now, the police vehicles, we try to get up to about 100,000. Once they're done, we'll turn them over to Public Works, we'll turn them over to Parks and Rec, so they get another 300,000, 400,000 miles out of them. And then we'll put it on gov deals and get a little bit of money in exchange. And but we got to be wise with how we spend money because the Ford Escapes and the Ford Explorers and whatever. Now, let's get some trucks, 4-wheel drive. We can swap them over to other people to use when we beat them up. And of course, they need pickup trucks.
What would happen if the city didn't have $1.8 million in its coffers? What if the city was bankrupt? What would happen?
I don't know. I've never been in a city that's been bankrupt, so I really don't know the answer to that.
Because I do know of cases in certain cities, maybe not just in Tennessee, but across the nation, that the state does step in for mismanagement of funds because, like you said, cities have to be balanced, right? They have to have a balanced budget. They can't carry debt. They can't, carry credit. There is no.
There's rules. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through the course, and there's things that you can do to remedy them. For the most part, you got to be smart in how you spend.
So $1.8 million in the bank is very, very good for a town of 700 people.
That's what it was when I got here. Actually, it was we also had $1.8 million in debt.
Mm.
So even though we had $1.8 million in the bank, we also had $1.8. We were right on that. Something needs to go. Now today, we have the only debt we have is $200,000. It was a 12-year capital improvement loan we took out in 2017 just to give us some seed money to start getting things moving. We took that out through People's Bank, and our annual payment with principal and interest is about $53,000. We have 4 payments left, so $200,000 in debt, and that's it. I think we have probably about $3 million in the bank. So that's pretty good,
Yeah, that's great.
compared to what it was. And it's getting better every day. I mean, like I said, the more you stop doing, I call stupid things, wasting money, the better it gets. And we invest that into our people. And the things I'm talking about, the money-wise, buying a truck, buying a skid steer, buying equipment that people need to use, that's not part of this ongoing savings piece of it. I mean, that's money that we have and we can do it. Because one of the things I told the commissioners back in 2016 in December, they asked me what your division was or what your priorities were. And I said, well, first I want to make sure I have the best trained, the best equipped, and the best paid employees in Warren County. Well, we've actually exceeded that through the surrounding counties, even Savannah. I get people calling, I want to see your pay scale. I want to see your pay scale. I want to see what you're doing because we are competitive. We are competitive in what we do, and that's a great question because our closest competitor right now.
All right, Doug, how do you set the pay scale?
Well, the pay scale was obviously set at the beginning, back in 2017. Now, it has expanded because we've added positions and some other things that we didn't have. So over the years, it's grown. As a matter of fact, if I got a copy of it. I do because it was one of the last ones. Ours is different from other pay scales. For instance, and I used to use the federal because that's the last one I came to. I hate to shuffle this thing over here. But here's a federal pay scale. It has 15 grades and 10 steps. Now, between each step, it takes 1 year. So it goes 1, 1, 1, then it goes 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3. So 18 years to go from step 1 to step 10, and there's 3% pay increases approximately in between each of these pay scales. We can't afford that. So when I originally put our pay scale together, we're now up to 12 grades, but we have 15 steps. Our pay scale goes 2% between each step, and it goes 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, and then 5 5s up to 50 years. And some people say, why did you go 50 years? I'm like, well, Miss Barbara was here 42 years when I got here, so we had to go to 45. And then she said, well, what if I go longer? And I said, then I'll make a 50 and then a 55 and a 60. As long as you want to stay here, we'll keep on going up, but 2% each time. Mm-hmm. So, but that's how we set it. It's not perfect. Obviously, we've adjusted over the years, but the one thing that's important about this, and we're talking about benchmarks, and everybody's seen these core civics we're hiring. I'll just use the correctional officer. Starting pay is $21.94 per hour. No training, no anything. Our police officers, starting after being post-trained for 12 weeks, and I think about $15,000, make $21.84. So we're not the highest paid, but we want to be close to our competition, which is over there. And we'll talk a little bit more like that when we get into propose for next year's budget. Anyway, it's not a precise game, but we try to do the best we can. That's what we got. And like I said, I send this everywhere.
That's how you keep your employees, though. I mean, when you show that you value them and they know that they're going to get a cost of living increase, they're going to stay. And, you know, typically tenured employees are better because they have that experience and that knowledge.
And I got a very strong team right now, and if we can give them more certifications, they can be on the job, not have to go call back and say, hey, what do I do about this? What do I do? But they're trained to do that, which is very important. And as you say, training costs money, and you get to keep your people,
right,
which is awesome. So
it costs a lot more to hire than it does to keep.
Yeah, and a lot of people that don't pay that well, they'll go in, they'll get their certifications, and they'll go next year, next door, next county, whatever, because they get more pay. Mm-hmm. So that's why you have to stay on top of it.
What do you want to move into next?
I want to talk about some rumors.
Hopefully not about me. Not true.
No, only two of them about you.
Okay, that's fair.
No. It's amazing the things that's been said about me since I've been here. I keep being told I get kickbacks, and I used to have a bank account at right next door, and it's like, well, obviously putting in the wrong one. Stealing equipment. You know, I get people that come in that do social media and say, you know what they said? That's a lie. I want to get on there. I was like, just leave it alone. They'll think up something new next time. And I think my favorite one is Miss Barbara came in one day and she says, do you own an airplane? And I'm like, no. Do you fly out on the weekends with your friends? I said, no. I said, why are you asking? She says, well, somebody told me you built those hangars. So because you're an airplane, you could store it for free. And I'm like, Miss Barbara, I've never owned an airplane, and I've never taken off or landing out of that airport as of today. But the icing on the cake was myself, and I'm not going to mention the prominent citizen and the mayor, were running cocaine operations out the airport. I can't make that stuff up.
Well, I was at the airport for the monthly breakfast.
Isn't it awesome?
It is, but nobody offered me cocaine, so I guess I didn't. I guess I asked for
the right person to go to.
I asked for bacon and not cocaine, so but okay.
But the latest rumor, and I got to do this.
So there are silly rumors by people that they don't get out of the house enough. They're busy watching television all day, and they're just going to just say the most absolutely ludicrous things. I know that probably everybody that's moved into this town over the last 7 years has gotten some sort of wild rumor attached to their name. So Is this just people just trying to be dumb and hear themselves speak, or is this something that's really bothering you?
The only thing that's bothered me so far is the latest rumor.
What's that?
The latest rumor is I've been setting my own pay, I've been running it up and running wild, and it's like there's no truth to it. But like I said, we have a budget process. I have records for a reason, so that in case somebody does claim that there's some sort of fraud, waste, and abuse, which I try and have been eliminating it since I've gotten here. It's not true, but
So let's go back. Who sets your salary?
the board.
The board.
They set it every year. It's called the budget. And we have the budget documents that we have in front of the board and whatever they want to look at. And we make sure they do the cost of living, because they have honored the cost of living adjustments all along, because that's what the promise was. If you can find the money, we will give it to you. Promises made, promises kept. So it's just one of those, but I'm going to tell everybody today how much money I'm making, because that seems to be the question.
So the city manager presents the board with a budget, including all the salaries. Each board member.
We have a working session where we go through the budget. We can do it line item by line item. All the documents are here. They look at what they want to look at, and everything's a process. We start out with these documents, we roll it up to this document, we roll it up to this document. Most of the time, we just want to see the very last document. And it's very complicated, and I understand. If you're not used to a huge budget with all these line items and how the things trend and whatever, it can be overwhelming. I remember sitting next to a county commissioner who was on the budget committee. I looked at him, I'm going through the budget because they were trying to raise taxes. I'm like, well, look here, there's 200,000, there's like 450,000. He's like, I don't look at that. I'm like, you're in the budget committee. I know, I just vote the way the people want me to vote. And I was just like, it just kind of blew me away. I'm like, okay. So, but
My point being is that there are multiple eyeballs on this.
yes.
So there's no way that the city manager can give himself a $20,000 raise and get it past 5 commissioners, an auditor, and
That's why we audit every year to make sure there's no shenanigans going on.
And are these the same people that are saying that you're running cocaine to the airport? Or are they, different people?
No. These are different people, but they're people that should know better than make these accusations. So I'm going to show everybody how much I've made since I've been at the city, since I've been here. These are my W-2s. I'm not going to show you my W-2s because I don't want my social security number out there or whatever, but I have, in the years that I've done, and I don't know if you can see it or not.
I can see it, yeah.
You can see it?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit closer?
Good.
Yep. I have made a grand total of $601,627. My last year's pay, which was 24, was $105,769. Now, a lot of people,
There you go.
a lot of people go, oh my God, he pulled $105,000. Well, look at my bottom total there. 601, I used to go read backwards, 627, right? That's how much money the city has invested in me to run this city and do good things. I already told you, the first $60,000, 6 months in, multiply that by 8, that's $480,000. Adjust for inflation, that's $547,000. I pretty much paid for myself in the first 6 months, all of the salary that I have received.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people talk about comps and all, and it's kind of ironic. One of the places looking for a city manager right now is Mooresville, Tennessee, which is.
And that's the one where the city commission has been firing the city manager and replacing them, right?
Through the process of firing him, and once it was done, it did. You had to pull back this, you had to add that, you had to recommend that. He had to walk his whole firing process through. And then the mayor goes, look, I just happen to have a resume from somebody that might want to be a city manager, and it looks pretty good. And nobody knew who this person was. And they voted 3-2 to put him in place. The very next day, they fired the chief of police, they fired the fire chief, they fired the city attorney. This person lasted about 3 months and said, you know what, this wasn't quite what I wanted to do. I'm going to do something else, and I'm going to quit. And that city has been in nothing but turmoil ever since. But they have an annual budget of $4 million. They have 32 full-time people, and the salary offering is, where's it at? $95,000 to $110,000 a year. Remember back what I said? I had 500 people and $250 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
I should go work for Brentwood. Brentwood's looking for a city manager.
Ooh.
Their budget is $108 million,
Mm-hmm.
311 employees. Then they're done that. Salary range, $225,000 to $275,000. Still, not to the level that I was making when I left. And the bottom line is, you guys got me on it cheap. You know, I should be up in Austin, up in Jackson, Tennessee, making big bucks. But, you know, and that's what bothers me, because here's the deal. I don't hold the record for the highest hourly wage at the city of Clifton. When I got here in 2016, I'll make sure I get my numbers right, there was a person that was working 11.7 hours per week, which I'll do the math, 608.4 hours for the year, had a salary of $32,517, which equates to $53.45 per hour. I'm making $50.25. That's some of the waste that I was clearing out when I got here. My first salary was $25 an hour, and this person was making $53.45. They were gone within 30 days. They were hired by the Board of Commissioners. How that happened, I don't know. Anyway, there was a lot of things going on here that needed to be fixed, and I've been fixing them. I got a challenge, though. I got a challenge for one commissioner out there. I know I'm only going to be here about another 2.5 months, but if you want me to set the record for the highest hourly wage, you have to go on a pay scale to a grade 12, step 15, a city manager having done it for 50 years. To beat that, it's like $54 and something an hour. So I would actually break the record if they did that. I doubt they will, but maybe somebody will make that motion and see who votes on it. It's just crazy. I mean, and that was not the only one. There's another area, and that person's no longer with us as well. And just a lot of waste. I mean, we're doing great. We're really doing great. The city's in great shape. We got another sidewalk going in. We got the sidewalk across the levee down at the marina. Both of those are grants that are by match grants. We've got the water plant coming up. As a matter of fact, our fiscal state, our rating or whatever the state gave us, they guaranteed us a $16 million loan at a 0.08% annual percentage rate. That's almost interest free.
Right.
They would not have not given us it, because I looked online, there's some other cities, they're getting 3.5, 4. I mean, they're still low compared to what the average around here, I mean, for civilian, I guess when I say civilian, I mean, somebody not in government, it's like 6, maybe 6.5 for buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
And they're giving us 0.08.
That's unheard of.
If we weren't fiscally sound, because they probably looked and said, this is weird. They're actually spending less money now than we were in 2016, but yet all these things are going the right direction. And it's yet to be the gift that keeps on giving, because we have about a $250,000 gap right now, adjusted for inflation up to $1.3 million. So we're doing good. I mean, we're in sound shape. So, but
all right, what's next?
What else? We talked about rumors, talked about my pay. People may ask me why I'm leaving. Well, the mayor and I don't know which one has the hardest head. It's probably me, according to my wife, but we just don't see eye to eye on certain things, what he wants to do as far as running the city and the day-to-day operations. And you know what? That's fine. We don't always get along. We got along great for a while, but it finally got to a point, and I said, you know what? Time to go. Now, if my wife had my way, she'd fired me a long time ago, because she wanted me to stop. But the one person that, other than my wife, I do realize I serve at the pleasure of the board. but I also serve at the pleasure of my wife. And it's kind of like, what's the guy, John McClane, knocked out the tire. He took out a couple of terrorists, and they yelled at him about it. And he's like, feeling pretty damn unappreciated here. And I felt the same way. And the one reason I stayed on was our mayor, Randy Burns. He saw what was happening. He saw the results, and he said, if I run and stay for 4 more years, will you do the same? And I said, yes. And that's when I gave the word, said I would, and I did my 4 years. And then that's when I decided it was time to go. We went through the hiring process. We got towards the end, the 2 top candidates that were qualified, that we really wanted. One, we couldn't pay them enough. The top one, the other person, they found out that they were leaving or job shopping. They gave that person an additional $20,000 a year in a car, company car.
Wow.
And they said they just could not refuse that. So I went out to the Board of Commissioners and I said, look, I don't think there's anybody left on this list that's qualified to run. If you will pay me at the 30-year level of experience that I have, then I'll stay on for 3 more years. And I did. And they did. It took them about 5 minutes. And then my contract was approved at by 5-0 vote. 5-0 vote. Now, I'm trying to think what I was getting. I was a grade 12, step 4. The actual amount of time I was here, 6 years. I wasn't getting way on that other range. So I went from a grade 12, step 4 to a grade 12, step 11. So they made that call. They readjusted the contract. That's why I'm at $50.25 per hour for commissioners. And as a matter of fact, it was Mark Staggs, Tammy Prince, Ruth Warren, Jeff Lepson, and Michael Francis. All of them. Within 5 minutes said yes. So that's where we're at.
So to tie in this conversation from the beginning, so the board obviously felt that you had done a great job. They obviously agreed with the qualifications that you had presented. They agreed that your work has really been exemplary, that you are deserving of what you asked for.
You're going to pay me at the 30-year experience level.
But they agreed.
But they agreed.
They agreed.
Now here's the kicker. I had to go home and tell my wife.
I bet she was so happy.
She was not very happy.
So let's talk about kickbacks. What did she get out of all this?
Well, if you like I said, I serve at the pleasure of my wife, so it's, I do serve at the pleasure of the board, but she's...
Did she get a new boat? Did she get a fur coat? Anything?
No.
Ooh.
As a matter of fact, we just went on our first ever honeymoon, vacation, whatever. We've been married 19 years. It's all been military. It's all been work. It's all been, I just haven't had the time. With Jenny growing up and that's why that's why it's time. It's time. I want to do the spring breaks. I want to do the summer. And I told you guys, it's like we took the boat out twice last summer. Twice. That was it.
And your boat is it the same one still?
Yeah, it's still the same one, but I got these nice engines on the back of them. They have no hours on them.
Yeah.
I put hours on them. I told you, I want to come to the marina every week.
What would your vision for the next 3 years look like for Clifton?
I'm going to say, I know what my vision would look like. Okay. If I were here, the vision is, the vision's great. People need water. We're building a water plant. We have enough water to supply the whole county. And even the southern end of Perry, the northern end of Hardin, I've already talked to the city manager down there. They're willing to hook up and in times of need when they can't supply it, we can supply, and vice versa. Even when we had I think it was 2 years ago, the really bad cold temperatures. There were people down in Beachview area that didn't have water for 7 days. Mm-hmm. And Austin was the public works director, called and said, what can we do? I mean, we're actually okay. What can we do to help? He says, build a water line and hook on the mine so you can feed the southern end of the county because I can't. So having a new water plant was great. it's going to open up some stuff. We can start building some lines and giving some people water. But I'm going to get to that just a little bit when we talk about, I know what where you're getting at, but I want to get in that as far as what I want to propose down for next year's budget. But I do have a couple things I want to talk about.
Okay.
And these aren't good things. These are the bad things. And I want to talk first about the Horseshoe Bend Festival. We had Tommy come in. Tommy didn't even want to be in that meeting. He was just kind of off the side until we finally called him in. You remember what he said in the heyday? We made about $15,000 in profit. Well, when we got here, that was not happening. There was no longer a heyday. And I was the city manager. My wife stepped up and volunteered to be the Rotary Club president, and she also worked at the chamber. And she said, we got to do something different because every year we're losing money. We're putting a ton of effort in putting all this stuff together, and we're not making any money. So that was right up my alley, right? Doing things more effective and more efficient. So we were running a Mercedes-Benz stage with all the whistles and bells and everything for $13,000 a year. We found a Ford over in Lawrence County, Lawrenceburg Rotary Club. They gave it to us for $3,000. That's a $10,000 savings right there. We started looking at things that, normally went till 1 o'clock in the morning. By the time 2 or 3 came around because they're out chasing the drunk people that were, still wanting to party and drink. And there's just a lot of people complaining about people driving through the yard, over their flowers, peeing here and peeing there. And we started trying to figure out how to, make it a little bit more friendly, less costly, try to make profit, because the original goal of the Horseshoe Bend Festival, when they started out in the park, was to make money so they could provide it for charities, right? So that wasn't happening anymore. So like we said, these high school seniors that need these $1,000 scholarships to buy books and other things, we need to try to make this as best as we can. And the reaction from the local crowd was boycott. Don't do it. Don't go. This is the worst idea ever. We're not going to do it. And there were even some competing events. There were some members of the Rotary that have never been back since. That's how bad of a riff it was. And up until the festival, we went ahead and conducted it, headed it, and put some controls in place to make sure that things were being done the right way. They took my wife and they drug her through the mud over and over and over again on social media. They kept doing it, and finally she said, I'm going to have to send out an apology letter. And I said, apologize for what? You don't have to apologize for anything. She spent 7 days hemming and hawing. She finally sent it out, and you know what the reaction was? It was like throwing red meat to a bunch of wolves. They doubled down and tripled down. Hateful, evil, mean things were being said, to the point that she quit the Rotary Club, she quit the chamber, and she says she will never ever spend another second of any volunteer work whatsoever for the city of Clifton. And she's kept that promise till today. Now, you might see her sometimes with me on the street. We'll come in, she doesn't want to be there, but she knows it's important. As city manager, I need to be there, so we'll spend about an hour, and then I take her home because she doesn't want to be there. Because those are the same evil, mean people saying bad things about her. And she was just trying to, what's the focus here? Is it to make money, or is it to lose money? Do you know how much money we end up losing for this festival?
How much?
Just take a guess.
7.
We did not lose $7,000. We actually made a profit of $13,000. $13,000, and according to Tom, and we asked Tommy Martin, we're not making this up, he said we had the most scholarships that we'd had in a long, long time for the seniors at Frank Hughes. So the people that were throwing her under the bus were actually trying to throw their own kids under the bus at school. It's just, that was horrible. I mean, she's still scarred, and she's not the only one. There's other people that have come in here, they're retired, they want to help out, they want to volunteer, they want to do some good things. You can only watch The Price is Right in the morning, so long, or wherever it comes on, and they get treated horrible, and they leave too. I mean, these are good people. These are volunteers. They want to come in and help. And that's probably one of the worst one of the lowest things that this community has done to my wife. My wife, she came from nothing. She enlisted in the Army, got a commission in the Air Force, and retired as a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force. And this is how she was being treated, which is a good segue into the Sergeant David Brown ceremony. I've heard people say things in public out loud, "You lost money." Well, was it there to make money? I think the goal was to memorialize a war hero who gave the ultimate sacrifice for his country, and you're saying just not ignorant, stupid things, because it was about him. We tried to do everything we could to break even. The family drove out to Utah on their own dime, so we would have to pay $2,500 to ship the statue here. TDEC put up a big flagpole for free. We had a GoFundMe page. I put the first $100 in there. I think we ended up with 5 more contributions, mine with a second $100. We get to the ceremony. I was there in the morning. I had to change the clothes because it's a master of ceremonies. My daughter worked the gate, and we both paid for our tickets. Even though we were working the event, we both paid for our tickets. And that was, we had city officials show up and say they're not paying because they didn't have to, because they were city officials. There's a lot of people who just need to take a look in the mirror and figure out some things. For veterans, we're trying to memorialize somebody that did something really special, saved a lot of lives. And there wasn't just city officials, there were others that said they didn't need to pay. The only bright spot, other than the ceremony and what we did and what we have in there today, was the volunteer fire department. Because we got to the end of that, everybody split. The band was trying to get their stuff and their gear together, and we said that we would help out, and they were in their trucks getting ready to go, and I asked Randy, hey, I need some help. They didn't grumble, they didn't moan, they got right out and started going to work like a bunch of ants and helped out and got it done, and then we all got out of there, and I was the last one there to turn out the lights. But that, just the whole theme of that, the feel of it, it was good, it was patriotic. We had some of those platoon mates there, but there were other people that just didn't think they I mean, this is his own community. He was born right there in the park, and we got no donations. And I say no donations, it was very limited. And that's just sad. But
what do you think the philosophy is for people that don't support you as city manager or are excited to see you leave? What do you think their vision for the city is for the next 3 years?
You're asking me some good ones, aren't you? You know, it's this us versus them mentality. We need to hurry up and get him out of here so we can go back doing things the way we always did it. And that's a recipe for disaster. You know, we need to hire the best qualified people. Just because they're not from here, I'm not from here, I'm from Tennessee, it doesn't matter. You have some good qualified people, and that's who you need to get in these positions, not because they're your best friend or where they're from, and I'll give you an example. I had 3 Parks and Rec guys, Eddie Simmons. I kind of wanted to get this at the beginning, but they're building softball fields, they're building fences, they're doing all these great things. They're really good people, they're really talented. Eddie Simmons is from Hardin County. Anderson, he's up in Parsons. I know he grew up in this area, but he lives up in Decatur County with me, right? And then Jason Holder, he actually was working in Linden in the medical field, and now he lives in Perry County, southern Perry County. Those guys are knocking it out of the park, but none of them from here, you know? Should they go too? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, some of the reasoning why, you know, we need somebody from here and they have to be local, and no, they don't. If they're local, good, great, swell. But we're not, you know, that's not the hiring criteria. So, and we got a bunch of other people that are really cool. My public works group is great, and I'm trying not to leave anybody out, but we got James and Hunter and Nick and Jeff and little Hunter Dante. Angela does a great job with the crew out here. Most people don't know we have never had a hit for our prisoners since we've had them in existence. And Colorado and Waynesboro can't say that. Angela goes to thrift stores and buys boots. She buys them with her own money so they have the decent boots to wear while they're working for the city. She goes out of her way to, and you know what? You treat people a certain way, and those guys are jumping on everything. The Parks and Rec and Public Works are working together. They're working, the crews aren't always just out mowing and weed eating. They're doing all kinds of projects. We got a great group out at the water plant. Bobo's running it. Richard's doing a great job at night. You know, he's got a graveyard shift. I don't know what they call it around here, but it's hard to get people to work that way. Even our part-time folks. Maria Bailey, I did an audit back in the summer. Maria Bailey worked every single weekend and every single holiday except for one for the entire year. You know how hard it is to get people to work weekends and holidays? She did every single one. When I found that out through the audit, I gave her a $2 an hour raise because she deserved it. Because you got to reward that type of loyalty. And I wish I could get more, but I mean, that's what it was. I got Sean T out at the wastewater plant. He's doing a great job. I want to talk about the fire department just a little bit. I don't know if we got into this or not, but a lot of people say I need to stay away from the fire department because I'm not qualified to be there. I went through firefighting training 4 times, a 40-hour course, because you have to do it every 4 years because everybody in the Navy is a firefighter. Because when you're out at sea, you don't dial 911. And those have been my chiefs.
So if you're not qualified, who is qualified?
Well, what I'm saying is it's just how they perceive me. They perceive me as somebody that doesn't need to be there. And I get along great with, Chief Roberts was down there, and then we had Randy Burns before him, and then Chilcott, they were battalion commanders, in Jackson and Newport News respectively. I mean, they got a lot of talent.
But if somebody's going to make the comment, why are you down here? You're not qualified. Who do they think is qualified then?
Because I'm not from here. I never grew up here. You see what I'm getting at? It's this mindset that it needs to go away. Because I got news for the locals. I was trying to get water funds back in several years ago. I went down to Loretto. Lieutenant Governor was down there talking about water priorities. In 50 years, and this is a few years ago, he says the population of Tennessee is going to double. There's going to be a lot more people coming to this area, and pretty soon you're going to be outnumbered. And not in a good way, because if you continue to push people away and say you're not from here, but look, you guys are knocking out the marina. We got Tammy and David out, they're not from here, they're out at the golf course. You got Scott and Melissa out at the Berrien. Everybody's in the venue. I mean, everybody is doing, with Pam and Vicky out at the venue, they're doing great things. I mean, it takes, to run a business is hard. You need really smart, solid people. If you keep running people off or running people down, pretty soon they're going to be the ones in charge. And as soon as you say, well, wait a minute, I've been here all my life, they'll give you the Heisman and say, well, yeah, but you know how you treated me? How's it feel? So,
the important thing for everybody to know is the city manager is entrenched in the position where he can hire, fire city employees. He is in charge of the departments.
Yes.
Nobody else. Nope. It is the city manager. Yep. So the city manager is over the chief of police. He is over the fire chief. He is over public works, everything. The city commissioners do not, and I'll get into that separately, but they do not have the ability to hire, fire any employee except for the city manager.
Correct.
So let's go ahead and community not tell the person that's in charge of everything that they shouldn't be in charge of everything, because they are. It's a fact. And you need to accept it.
And, you know, it is what it is, and I really need to give a couple more shout outs to my folks because I don't want to lose anybody. I love working with Chief Wilson, Lieutenant Harris, Jagger, Jeff Pointer, he's our vampire, as we call him, a graveyard shift worker. Stephen Haddock.
Clifton Marina knows him quite well.
Stephen Haddock, he's a new guy, he's a Navy chief. We got Terry Brewer, he's been down Collinwood for a long time. He's up here with Seamus Lewis, Brian Davis, Clyde Carroll. Of course, we got Sam Shelley and Moody Madison, quickly learning and turning over at City Hall. And then we got a couple of folks, Main Street, Tennessee, Riverline, Shawnee. You know, a lot of people think Shawnee is abrasive, but I like Shawnee because I like the fact that she's large in charge, and she does, all I have to ask her to do it. She does the work of two people, and she's a part-time employee. A lot of energy, gets a lot of stuff done that I don't have to worry about. Got a good city attorney, Mike Henson, Judge James Ross. We got a strategic planner, her name's Karen. I tried to get the board to sort of accept her into the position. She's making $22 an hour. She's licensed in New York, Florida, and Tennessee. And she makes a whole lot more money than, that's why I brought her in for zoning. She makes a whole lot more money than $22 an hour. So, but out of all the people I'm mentioning, my board of commissions are the most important members of all. And I say this for a reason, because they pass the budget every year. We put it together, they pass it. That allows us to go out and do the good things that we're doing and the savings we're making and the projects that we're doing. And I kind of want to get in that because we're in the budget cycle right now, and there's some things that I think is important that people need to know. We're looking at about 2% COLA this year. And we're also looking at targeted pay raises because, did you watch Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that commercial come up with the Tennessee Department of Corrections?
Mm-hmm.
About blew me away because I was going to talk about that. Effective February 16th, what is today? I guess it's Sunday. I don't know why that came on Sunday. The entry-level salary for correctional officers is $24.62 an hour. And over 18 months, it goes up $5,000, or we get a $5,000 bonus. And at the end of 18 months, it's $28.98 an hour. Our guys starting out is 21. So I'm going to propose to the commissioners that we put in a 10% targeted pay raise for police officers so that we can be competitive. Because it won't take long for Core Civic to say, ooh, I got to raise ours now. So we're losing them over to the Attorney Center. That's one item, is the property tax. When I got here, it was 0.65. We had to raise it to 1 in order to get that capital improvement loan for 12 years to have some seed money to actually start doing some stuff. We lowered it to 0.9. The reason we did that was 1 penny is about $1,600. And that had to do with the liquor store referendum. So steady state now, at least a few years back, was $16,000. So we lowered it down to 0.9. But you guys are bringing in all this local option sales tax that I want to kind of see it what it was when I left. So I'm going to propose a 0.65 property tax for this year's budget. Now, in comparison, of course, I track this stuff from the county and the cities. The property tax rate for the county is 2.16, Collinwood 1.63, and Waynesboro is 1.19. So even right now at 0.9, we have the lowest property tax, we have the lowest water rates, we have the lowest everything, except for we don't have the lowest paid employees. But they work really hard to get that money. I mean, we've done a lot of savings, we're doing a lot of good things, we're paying off, matching the grants. Clifton's in great shape.
And let's take a step back.
Okay.
So the Clifton Marina has brought all this, we're going to call it liquor tax, right? Or is it?
Liquor by the drink.
Yeah, liquor by the drink.
Liquor by the drink.
That's great news. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you're thinking about going out to dinner or for a drink, to come support the Clifton Marina, because your boy just got the city manager to suggest lowering your property tax. So we're going to pick up for that. Come see us. We're going to be open March 1st. Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right. Doug, I want to thank you for being with us on the podcast today. It's been so much information shared. Hopefully everybody made it to the end. Remember, you can pause the podcast and come back to it as well if you're busy, so you can get all the information. Also, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. That way we can start doing some live podcasts. And if we can do live, you'll be able to ask questions as well. It'd be like being in the studio with us. I want to thank Stacy, our producer, and
Commentator.
and all the peanut gallery stuff she's been doing today. Doug, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, I think as we move forward, I'm leaving, whoever comes, we need to keep what's in the best interest of the city guiding us. Or what is the event for as a guide, because you can go down the wrong path. You end up at this destination when you should have been at this destination. And that's if we plan these things properly, keep the best interest of the citizens in mind, that's all you can ask. Because they are the taxpayers. They are the stewards. We are the stewards of their dollars. We got to make sure we spend them wisely and it's as the most effective and efficient manner and possible. But we are doing that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope it was cathartic for you. I really do. Get everything off your chest and say what you wanted to say today. And my final thought is for all of you out there that are going to take this podcast, run with it, and start saying something negative, that's fine. You do you. I don't care. But at the end of the day, there's reality. And then there's your perception of how you want things to be. The reality is the city manager is in charge of the day-to-day operations. And that's just how it is. You can research it online. You can go through the rabbit hole of the internet, and that's absolutely fine. As a matter of fact, opinion 1111 by the Tennessee Attorney General in 2011 specifically states the breakdown between the city manager and the commissioners and what they do. That's our city. That's how it is, and that's how it should be. So just go ahead and just release it into the universe and just be okay with it. So for Christopher Huntingford, I will see you guys later with the next podcast. Have a great one.